Hello everybody, and welcome back to Dicey Decisions D&D on the 5e Forever network. My name is Corey, and at 5e Forever we enjoy playing the 2014 version of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we're going to continue to talk about, explore, and make content for that edition of D&D, even as the rest of the world transitions to the 2024 Player's Handbook and beyond. On this series, known as Dicey Decisions D&D, we take the power of character creation out of our own hands and put it solely in the hands of the dice. From level 1 to level 3, we build our characters, letting the dice make every decision for us. So without further ado, let's get into episode 4 of Dicey Decisions D&D, Sparklegem The Bandit Gnome. Alright, let's hop into this. At level 1, we have to define our character's starting race. And before I get started, I just want to ask a question. How many of you, answer truthfully, have gone through the Player's Handbook and actually read about the race known as the Gnome? How many of you have played it? 0? Maybe 1, maybe 2 of you have even thought about playing a Gnome. It's not very good. If I had to be perfectly honest, before going into this experiment, I had never flipped open to the Gnome. I heard it was bad. I heard it was very much bottom tier. Didn't really know why, but it was awful. And I'm sorry for the Gnome. And I'm sorry to any of you who have actually played the Gnome. But we're gonna jump right in. At level 1, we're a Gnome. We really don't get that much starting stuff. We get Dark Vision out to 60 feet. We get Gnome Cunning, which is an advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saves against magic, which is, pretty good, obviously. But then we get Tinker, and that's it. Nothing. So yeah. And then the issue that is compounded in this particular build, unfortunately, is that we are a monk. If you remembered from my first episode of Dicey Decisions D&D, we built a Way of the Four Elements monk. And it was an awful build. It was an awful build because it was a monk. It was an awful build because the ability scores that we rolled were also quite awful. So one can imagine that when combining a very poor race for our character, combined with a substandard class, we probably are going to have a pretty low to mid-level character. And that's pretty much what we have here. So this is going to be a bit of a shorter episode because we discussed most of what you get as a monk on episode 1. We'll just fly through really quick. You get unarmored defense, which means that your AC is 10 plus your dexterity plus, in this case, your wisdom modifier, which is, I guess, pretty good. You get your martial arts, you get ki, you get unarmored movement, increase your movement speed by 10. We get the ability to deflect missiles, and in this particular case, I'll just continue straight through to level 3. We are going to be going with the Way of the Open Hand. Whenever we hit an enemy with one of the Flurry of Blows attacks, we get to do one of 3 different things to it. As a monk, we don't get any proficiencies in armor. We get a couple weapon proficiencies, simple weapons and short swords. For tools, we have proficiencies in Tinker's tools from our racial start. We are also proficient from our background, which is criminal, in Dragon Chess and in Thieves tools, and a musical instrument, which in this case we have rolled for the viol. We know languages of just Common and Gnomish, and how many times Gnomish is really going to come up in any of your campaigns is probably very small. Getting into some of our background information, as personality trait, we learn that we are always calm, no matter what the situation, and we never try to raise our voice or let emotions control us. Pretty good for a monk. Differently, though, we're going to do whatever it takes to become wealthy, and something that was taken from us, we aim to steal back. So not very monkey-y. Also, as a flaw, whenever we see something valuable, we can't help but think about a way to steal it. On the other hand, as far as alignment goes, we are lawful neutral. We're not an evil character, nor are we chaotic, so we're gonna have to think a little bit about how this plays narratively into the character, but we will get into that a little bit into the future. As far as ability scores, we actually rolled pretty well for this one. For strength, we rolled a 9, which gives us a -1 modifier. For dexterity, we rolled a 14, which gives us a +2. Constitution, we rolled a 15 +1 to 6, gets us a 16, and we take a 3 there. Intelligence, we are continuing along the relatively low intelligence scores so far. We rolled an 11, +2 gets us a 13 for a +1 modifier there. Wisdom, we straight rolled a 14 for a +2, and Charisma, we rolled a 12 for a +1. This gives us saving throws of 1, 4, 3, 1, 2, and 1 for Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma, noting that we have proficiency in Strength and Dexterity from our monk. Given that we are a gnome, we do not get any proficiencies from our race, so we are left with just 4 proficiencies as far as skills go. We have Deception, History, Insight, and Stealth. As far as core characteristics go, we have an armor class of 14. Initiative from Dexterity of +2 gives us a +2 to Initiative. Speed is 35, that 25 plus unarmored movement of 10 gives us 35 there. When it comes to hit points, we are actually a chunky boy. We took 11, which is 8 + 3, which is Constitution modifier at first level. We also rolled a natural 8 on our second level increase, and a little bit lower on our third level, giving us a total hit point of 30, which is very high for our character and well above average. Our hit dice obviously are a 3d8. When it comes to weapon attacks, we have light hammer, darts, and our martial abilities, all with +4 to hit because they are the versatile, which means that we can use our dexterity modifier instead of our strength, which in this case bumps our modifier from a +3 to a +4. So all of our attacks have +4 to hit, and all of them have 1d4 +2 for our damage, so it doesn't really matter what weapon or fist or shin that we want to attack with, we're all getting the same plus to hit and damage. And that's been it for this character. It's kind of a short one. There's really not too much to talk about. We are a gnome, which is a bad character. We are a monk, which is a bad class. And this one sort of comes down to narrative. So what can we think about for this character? What do we know? We know that they were a criminal in the past, and we know that they are a monk now. We are lawful neutral, but we also like to steal stuff and want to get something back. So maybe, in this particular case, we're not talking about a peaceful monk group. Maybe this is a character who was once a monk, and that's all that they know in their life. They like to live generally peacefully, but they're also not afraid to get their hands dirty a little bit. I think that maybe at level 4, if this character was to continue on, they would separate away from the monk world and go into something different. Perhaps they go into the rogue world. They try to get in touch with their stealthiness a little bit more and their deception and find whatever it is that was taken from them before. I think that's probably what this character does. I don't see this character staying as a monk for very long. So if we look at this character in relation to the other ones that I've built, it is certainly better than the first monk that was built because I rolled ability scores that were very, very poor. But when we try to look at the comparison of this monk versus builds 2 and 3, everything begins to fall apart a little bit. Between this episode and a previous one, I built an Excel spreadsheet to have a look at some of the numbers, that I compare the numbers fairly evenly, assuming that all of the things were equal as well, which is not exactly the case, but we'll kind of roll with it. And one of the metrics that I found was interesting and helpful was to add all of the skill scores together to try and figure out roughly what tier certain characters are in, because I think that a lot of the power of these builds actually just comes from the ability score rolls and therefore the skill rolls. And what I found is that builds 2 and 3 had skill totals in the 40s, whereas the skill total for build number 1 is 6. For this 4th build, our total number of skill points, I guess you could call them, is 32 versus 44 and 45 for builds 2 and 3, respectively. So what we can tell is that we are probably on a different power level from level 2 and 3, but certainly well above that for build 1. So I feel pretty confident in saying that this character is currently 3rd on our tier list of top 5 builds, and we will see this pop right down here. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope that you have found it interesting. If you have a different opinion on what the backstory of this character might be, please comment down below. I'd appreciate it if you might like this video and subscribe to this channel, as I hope to upload one of these videos every week for the foreseeable future. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye for now.